Tony Robbins. He's a leading life and business strategist, best-selling author of some of the most popular self-help books. His latest book is called Life Force: How New Breakthroughs in Precision Medicine Can Transform the Quality of Your Life and Those You Love. It covers everything from sleep to aging to Alzheimer's. Tony Robbins joins us this morning from Palm Beach, Florida. Tony, nice to see you.
Nice to see you again, Rosanna. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm wondering what prompted you to write this book, Life Force?
I think you know my whole life has been about finding ways to help people increase the quality of their life, and I spent, after 2008, 10 years focusing on finance because so many people lost, everything they had during the 2008 time, and wrote 2 #1 bestsellers. And the way I did it was interviewing 50 of the smartest financial people in the world. Well, in this book, I interviewed 150 of the top scientists, Nobel laureates, medical doctors. Some of it's my opinion, but what really triggered me, I've always been involved in this, was I had an accident that they told me was going to end my career. I was chasing a 22-year-old down the side of a mountain, and he was doing things I didn't know how to do on a snowboard. And at the end of it, I thought I broke my neck. It was so bad. But they tore all my rotator cuffs severely. I was in like a 9/9 pain, not able to sleep. And I went to all these doctors, and it was surgery, surgery, surgery. And I said, well, what's the recovery? Well, you may not be able to lift your arm above your shoulder. It might take 4 to 6 months. And, I'm with groups of 15, 20,000 people at a time. I can't do it with one arm. And then one doctor pulled me aside, and he said, listen, I think you're an incredible person, but I just got to shoot you straight. And he showed me my spine, and I've had spinal stenosis for a long time, a lot of pain. And he said, your life as you know it is over. No more jumping, no more snowboarding, no more anything you're doing. He said, you just can't do it. He said, you might not be able to walk with one good hit. And it was like a gut punch. And I was like, okay, I just can't give up on this. My whole life has been finding answers. So I went to Dr. Peter Diamandis, who's a good friend and partner of mine. He's a co-author now of the book. And he knows everybody in the industry. And I said, I've heard about stem cells. I know some I've heard bad things about, some great. I know the FDA has approved it for 80 diseases. 1 million people have had them. But where would be the best place to go? And he said, you got to meet Dr. Bob Harari, who's now my partner and also co-author in this book. He was one of the first people to discover stem cells. And so I sat down with him. He said, Tony, the ones you need for something this strong, if just an elbow or knee, you could do it in the U.S. But he said, you need 4-day-old stem cells. I said, I don't want fetal tissue. He goes, no, it's cords. People throw away the cord and placenta during birth. And he said it has the most powerful stem cells. He told me where to go. I did 3 days where I just did an IV and a shot. The first day, I was just relaxed. The second day, I woke up, and not only was my shoulder perfect, but I stood up with no pain in my spine for the first time in 14 years. And I got the MRI, my shoulder's perfect. So it's like I became obsessed. And I found it wasn't just stem cells. There is a regeneration revolution. Precision medicine is coming about right now with technology.
But why
if you just look at certain things, you miss out on what's available.
I know, Tony, why aren't, like when you go to the doctors, like your regular doctors that you go to, why aren't they talking about this precision medicine? Like stem cells, for example, I was very curious about, because friends of mine are going to Costa Rica to get them. They say the stem cells here in the United States are not that good. I don't know anything about it.
Well, if you use your own stem cells and you're over the age of 35 or 40, they drop off the cliff. So those are called autologous. If you do allogenic, which is a big word, it just means from someone else, you can get those stem cells that are 4 days old, and they have the force of life. It's what makes a baby be able to grow so quickly. And so what I can tell you is there's so many breakthroughs. Like literally you can heal in days instead of weeks or months. Jack Nicklaus, who's one of the greatest golfers of all time, endorsed my book because I met him at the Vatican. I went to the Vatican. Believe it or not, the Pope every 2 years brings in all the best doctors in the world. That's how far stem cells have come.
Wow.
And while I was there, I was the cleanup speaker. I attended every class, and I met Jack there. And Jack was supposed to have spinal fusion, which only works about 50% of the time, and it limits your ability to move. And he did stem cells instead, and now he's 82 years old. He couldn't stand for 10 minutes without pain. Now he plays golf and tennis at 82. I'm sure you've heard about CRISPR. We're now curing diseases through these gene therapies and through these gene editing techniques. Kids that couldn't see are seeing now, for real. You've got individuals who had, various forms of diseases we couldn't cure. I'll give you another one here. It's amazing. There is you probably know the FDA has 3 phases. Phase 1 is safety, 2 is efficacy, 3rd is efficacy at scale. And then if you make it through it, you get approved. Well, there's a company right now that is going to be approved, it looks like, because they're in phase 3 by the end of this year, beginning next year. And if you have arthritis, osteoarthritis, they give you 1 shot It stimulates your own stem cells to regrow all your tendons in 11 months. And it doesn't matter if you're 40 or 80, you get like 16-year-old tendons.
Are you kidding me?
It's based on your original. I'm not kidding you.
Wait, Tony, are there risks? Are there risks to this?
Well, there's risks to every kind of a treatment, but the FDA has approved stem cells for over 80 different diseases, and they're the most rigorous in the world. So there's some, but like my risk for the surgery was much greater than it was for the stem cells, and I got the result in a few days instead of 4 to 6 months of rehab and perhaps breaking it down again. But it goes more than that. There's a study, heart disease is the biggest biggest challenge, right, besides cancer. And one of my partners called me and said, there's this great breakthrough that's happened in the last 6 months. It's called a CCTA scan. When docs do a CT scan, they're looking to see the plaque in your body or the calcium buildup. They can't tell the difference between hardened calcium, which means you're healthy, or soft that can break off and give you a heart attack or a stroke. This new technique uses AI, takes no more time. It opens up digitally all the arteries and shows you where you stand. I took my father-in-law, I was 80 years old, he was feeling like getting old, and people were telling him, arrange your affairs. I took him in there, and he did the test, and he was solid as a rock. He had no problems in his body. Everything had hardened, so he was healthy. Completely changed his perspective. There's a doctor at Harvard, Dr. David Sinclair, is probably one of the greatest longevity experts today. He's 53 chronologically, but through these 4 forms of supplements he uses, he's 33 in his biochemistry. Now, I've done what he taught for about the last 10 months since I met him. I'm 62 in a couple days. I'm 51 now in my biochemistry. So literally they're showing us how to start to turn back the clock. If someone has Parkinson's, here's another example. There's a brand new breakthrough. It's available in 100 hospitals, even covered now by insurance. They call it incisionless brain surgery. They use ultrasound, really intense ultrasound. They find the spot in the brain that creates those tremors. And I met this woman, you've probably seen people when they get audio implants and they cry because they can hear for the first time.
Right.
This woman couldn't walk across the room, 15 different drugs. 15 minutes later, she gets up, she walks across the room perfectly, she takes a glass of water, she starts crying her eyes out. She just did a 50-mile bike ride 2 years later.
Get out of town, Tony. First of all, I could spend hours with you. The book is, no, we got to continue the conversation, Tony, at another time. But this book is crazy good, Life Force. It just gives you alternatives to what you're hearing, in the mainstream. Yes. And we need to know this.
By the way, I just want people to know, like my last 3 books, I'm donating 100% of the profits. It's millions of dollars. We're feeding 20 million people, feeding America. And the balance is going for Alzheimer's, cancer, and heart disease research from the top people. So while you're changing your own life or you're helping somebody you love through this book, you'll also be changing lives that really need it during these tough times.
Tony Robbins, bless you. Always a pleasure talking to you. The book is out now.
Thanks for having me on.
Life Force. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Blessings to you. Take care, Roseanne.